Hi guys, just a little update and some more thoughts and information from this very filled brain. I had my follow-up appointment yesterday with the reproductive endocrinologist, and basically after my blood work results came back, they showed that I have a low normal AMH level. So AMH shows your ovarian reserve, so how many eggs are basically left in your ovaries, because you're born with what you're born with, right? So you can't just like create eggs out of nowhere. So my AMH was 1.23. 0 means menopause. They're not worried, like extremely worried right now, but it's something that they want to watch, because basically once it gets below 1, then you start to look at the like, it's going to be hard for me to have a kid kind of thing. I mean, it's already obviously difficult for me to have a kid, but so that was that, and I wasn't expecting that, so that was kind of like, whoa, I'm only 33. I don't expect to have situations like that be happening yet. So they're not in a super rush, but once I hit 35, apparently that kind of really goes down quickly. And I'm 33 and a quarter, I guess, and it's just kind of freaky to think about, time's running out. And I felt that way for a while, which is why we've been trying. And I'm like, I don't want to wait much longer, because it's just like you really are working against the clock, and it's such a weird idea to have such a big life change, kind of not force it, but like, oh my gosh, I only have so much time to make it happen. And in my 20s, I wasn't ready to have kids. I got married when I was 27. Nate and I are somewhat wanderlust. For those of you who know us, we do things spontaneously, move across the country, things that people wouldn't maybe normally do, but we like to explore and we like to go on adventures. And so it wasn't time yet. So anyway, AMH level was 1.23, so that was one thing they wanted to talk about. And then also my follicles. I have 4 on the right and 5 on the left. They want, around my age, for you to have 8 and 8, so 16 total, and I have 9. And what that means is you can't create new follicles. Basically, when you have your cycle, your hormones basically rush to the follicles, because the follicles are competing to be the biggest and the best. So the egg will find its way to the biggest and the best, and then hopefully release the egg and find the sperm and make a baby. So the less follicles that I have, where it can come into play as being an issue is if I did choose to do IVF, because I only have 9 follicles to start out with. And when you do IVF, basically you're trying to like make all of the follicles filled with all the eggs, and then they retrieve as many eggs as they can. And then from there, the egg that they can actually use, or eggs they can actually use, the percentage goes down based on the morphology of the egg and all these other things. And so I'll tell you more about that in a second. So long story short, we're going to do IUI for 1 cycle, see what happens. They're going to learn a lot about, other blood levels that I have at the beginning of my next cycle. So IUI works. I'm going to give you a little cartoon version of how it happens. So I would do a hormone drug assisted IUI. So day 1, get my period. I call them. I'm like, hey, she's here. Flo's here. Day 2 or 3, I go in, I get an ultrasound, and I get blood work done, and they check out my ovaries. They see what the levels are for the other hormones that help produce all the happy things that make a baby. And then I start taking medication from days 3 to 8. And basically what that does is it blocks the normal brain signal that would go to my follicles and make them grow. And it says, oh, there's nothing happening. And that makes my brain go, wait, more needs to happen. And so it like throws all the hormones down there, and it makes all the follicles like, come on, pick me egg, pick me egg. And this is ridiculous. And so, but this is how my brain understands it. So then you're basically shooting all these like signals for your follicles to really start working. And then I go in on day 11 or 10 or 11. I get another ultrasound. They check and see if the medication has made my follicles, do what they're supposed to do and get big and happy and ready for an egg. And then I get a trigger shot. So I have to inject a hormone into my belly that basically forces ovulation. So what they're doing in IUI is basically controlling my cycle, and also doing more research to find out why it doesn't happen naturally. So then I do the trigger shot, I force ovulation, then Nate and I get busy that night. And then 2 days later, I go back in. Nate actually has to go in the morning of that 2 days later day, give a sample. They clean it. They find the fastest, the most mature, most balanced, and the best sperm. Yay, best sperm wins. They take those sperm, and then they bring me in the afternoon. They put a catheter in, and they basically say, here you go, ovaries and uterus. Here's all these pretty sperm that we have for you. Do your job. And then hopefully the egg that, I've produced and then forced to release when I wanted it to by the shot in my belly, hopefully the magic happens and then it implants and we have a baby. You have to do it a couple more times after that, but that's basically medically assisted IUI. So that's what we decided to do for the first round. And I asked all the questions that I could about IVF because obviously knowing that I have not so many follicles and that my AMH is lower, I was like, should I go right to IVF? And this is where, if any of you are watching, I would love advice. The whole thing is very scientific. And when you're sitting there in the chair and they're explaining it to you and showing you pictures and kind of, it's like, okay, am I going against nature and like forcing something to happen? And if you're a hater, don't say things because I have all the questions. I don't judge other people. Well, maybe I do, but I don't say it out loud. So like, if you're on YouTube right now and you see this, don't judge me for asking these questions. I'm just voicing what everyone else thinks in their head because I'm not afraid to voice it. So it all just seems very scientific. And I'm like, okay, this is extreme. IVF is really extreme. For those of you that have done IVF, I give you props because that is intense. And Nate and I are kind of on the fence of like, if IUI doesn't work, I don't know what we're going to do. When do you draw the line? That's a question that I am struggling with and why I didn't really post yesterday afternoon because I was just worn out. Going to these appointments it's exhausting. You leave and you're like, I'm 33 and I'm racing against the clock and now I'm finding out these other things that could potentially be aside from my endometriosis because I asked her, I said, is my AMH level being low and low normal, and the follicles not having as many as I should, could that be the reason for my infertility? And she's like, I still think it's your endometriosis. And you're like, cool. So yeah, I'm a little like discouraged and I'm a little sad. It's weird. It's like, why does my body work? Why? But I try to stay positive. I often deal with my feelings of fear and anxiety with humor, which can or cannot be healthy, but hey, we get a laugh, right? We only live one time. So yeah, we're going to do IUI one time, and then regroup. And if it makes a baby, great. If it doesn't, then we're just going to think like, okay, how far do we want to go? Because Nate and I could live a perfectly happy life, just the two of us, as much as I want to be a mom, right? I love babies. My niece and nephew are the lights of my life, and I can't imagine like seeing a little person that was made for me and Nate. Like, I just think that would be so cool, really, because Nate's really cool, and I just think that would be cool. So I just have all the questions, and my brain is kind of spinning, and I'm going, okay, like, now I'm using science because Mother Nature is not really working, and it just feels kind of strange. And I just want to know if you guys have opinions on that matter, if you've been in this position where you're like doubting everything, where you're, whatever. I'd like to talk. So comment if you can, or if you follow me on Instagram or we're friends on Facebook, just send me a message or comment or something. I just want to know if you know someone that's been through something similar, because this is a lot more common than I knew. I didn't expect it to be as common as it is for people to have issues with infertility. They just don't talk about it, but I'm talking about it. So yeah, let's talk to each other. Let's get it out there. Let's not make this such a hard thing that devastates people and they just stay at home and don't, express themselves. Like I'm ready to talk about this and make it not so hard for women to share and make a community about it. So yeah, I'm going to stop rambling now. I'm going to go get my hair did because these roots are something. And yeah, on my next video, I'm going to talk about anxiety, which I know these are heavy videos probably, but I need to talk about the hard things that people are not always willing to talk about. And I have a lot to say about my anxiety disorder, about what I'm facing, which could be a medicated pregnancy. So anyway, any questions, comments, thoughts, advice, help would be great. And thanks for watching, everyone that's watched so far and has commented or just given me support. It's really helpful, but I really want to help you too. So let's chat. Okay, bye.